Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be going over that snowstorm, which is now starting out in the upper Midwest. We're seeing this one become really the snowstorm that we've been expecting it to become for so long now, and it's been really cool seeing it really form. We're going to take a look at the radar in just a moment and see what's going on right now, and then we're going to take a look at the modeled guidance, take a look at the most up-to-date information in just a moment. Anyways, before I get into this video, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, which state do you think will see the most snowfall from this snowstorm? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and we have a few interesting things going on to note. Up here in the upper Midwest here, that is our snowstorm, which is going to eventually move down and then back up the East Coast here, and this is what's going to bring just gargantuan amounts of snowfall for this interior eastern region, kind of excluding the coast here, bringing quite a bit of ice down here as well. So this is just going to be a mess of a storm, very, very major winter storm, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this one plays out. Now, it's also worth noting we do have our very major storm that is offshore of the East Coast, and this one, like I said in yesterday's video, would have been even more major if it would have connected here with the eastern United States, but it just did not play out that way. But if this one was, 100 miles further west, we'd be taking a look at some sort of snowstorm here, and this storm is a stronger one than the one we're going to see with this. So really active pattern we're in. Strong storms heading up the coast. It's just, will they connect or not? This one doesn't. This one does. And we actually have a few more that we think are going to be on the way in the upcoming pattern, which that leaves a question mark. Will those ones connect or not? And we're going to be taking a look at all of this on the modeled guidance in just a moment. So there's just so much to go over. I love when we're in patterns like this because at least it gives me a ton of things to talk about. Almost too much to talk about. I can't even, fit it all in one video. So let's go ahead and zoom in to the west, and we're going to take a kind of look at these just sporadic showers here. We have little bits of rainfall all over the place from Montana down through the Rockies and down through the Southwest. We have rainfall going on for all of those regions. It's very, very spotty and very, very light, but there is precipitation for spots in there. Now let's zoom into the beginning of what is our major snowstorm, and you can see the precipitation typing turns off, unfortunately. This is one of the few glitches that I frequently have with WSV3, which is the program that I use for my radar, by the way. So this is just something we're going to have to bear with. But really, everything is snow in here, so you can just ignore the green. This is all snowfall happening. And we have heavy pockets here throughout North Dakota, Minnesota, especially the further south in the state you go. South Dakota, especially the further east in the state you go. And then we're seeing some of that make its way into Iowa now as well, through the central regions of the state. And this is going to be moving through states like Wisconsin, Illinois, and Missouri later on today. And like I said, that kind of looks like a face. It's pretty funny. But this is going to be eventually moving down into these regions, like I said, or almost directly south, and then reforming, and then it's going to take a track something like, well, it's going to be a lot further inland than that. It might even be over land. It's pretty uncertain where it's going to be here, because it could track inland, it could track offshore, or anywhere really in between, and that is what's going to dictate where the heaviest snow pops up. And that's been the biggest question mark, because we've had some models showing it track inland at times, some showing it track kind of along the coast, some showing it track just offshore of the coast, some showing it tracked pretty far off the coast. We're pretty certain it's going to be somewhere in the middle here at this point, so we have kind of evened things out where we've gotten a really good idea of where it's going to track. But, it's been a difficult one, to say the least. And here's some of that precipitation offshore. We are actually, if I zoom in here to kind of New England, we can see that some of that is making its way here to southern New England, that heavier precipitation. This is not our big snowstorm. This is actually a different low pressure system bringing that heavy precipitation onshore there to the eastern, I guess, southeastern regions of Massachusetts, which is very interesting. We also have some snow showers that were around for kind of northern New England. Those are moving out as we speak, and we're going to have some snowfall going on with our big snowstorm soon. So this is just kind of the little bits of snowiness before the big time snow is on its way. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at some model guidance where we're going to take a look at our low resolution long range models. We're going to go all the way through with those, but we're also going to take a look at the short range high resolution models, which I told you guys we would look at today. So that's going to give us some brand new information, and I can't wait to show you guys that. Now, like I said, I'm very excited to show you this. This is going to be just super cool. We're going to go through 4 different models today. We're going to take a look at the European model, the GFS model, then the Canadian high resolution model, or our RGEM is what that one's called, and then also our NAM 12KM model. So we're going to be taking a look at all 4 of those models, 2 of our like medium range typical models that you'll see us use at any time point really. They can get out to 240 hours, but they do give you accurate information a couple of days out as well. But then we're going to take a look at our models that specialize in the short range, like within 2 days or so, which is also going to give us very good information for this very soon to happen snowstorm. So let's take a look at here at our European model. We see our storm up here. So let's just move this on. And there you can see with our first storm how close this one was to being a major snowstorm. Like I said, we see tons of snow developing with that super major storm out there, but that one just does not connect. This is by the time we're reaching approximately 11 p.m. tonight on Friday, and as you can see, this snowfall is really developing here for Iowa, portions of northern Missouri, and then Illinois by this point. That one kind of looked like a phase 2. I don't know why that accidentally happens all the time. But this one really dives down, as you can see. So the low pressure system kind of goes from being here and almost in a, I would say almost like directly south direction, very, very sharply southward here. And we can see this trough really just digging in behind it as well. So this is just all snow down here from Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, Oklahoma. Very deep south region seeing a lot of snowfall with this one. That's by tomorrow afternoon at about 3 p.m. We'll know a lot more by that point because one thing that really determines what these models are going to trend at is where the low pressure system is here, because once the low pressure system is actually something that exists, the models sample that in, and let's say it's 20 miles further west than they anticipated, they're going to take that into consideration with the entire run here that the models do. So that's important, but also since this storm has so many turns with it, it's going to, really take into account when does that curve happen? Is it a little bit further south after that happens? They'll take that into account too. So there's a few key moments here in this storm's life that are going to dictate what happens with the model guidance and how correct the model guidance will be as the storm takes this track. When these key moments take place and the differences, because there's going to be some errors with the models, that's what's going to change potentially some things over the next couple of days where we might see some things really, really change up a little bit. So we're seeing down here in the deep south, the northern regions of these deep south states, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina here, some snowfall, Tennessee especially, they're seeing a lot of snowfall. We're just going to zoom into the east here by this point, and we see a lot of ice developing here. So I wanted to mention something to you guys. It's really important to not use 10-to-1 ratio snowfall in these types of scenarios where we have this mixed precipitation happening. The reason being is 10-to-1 ratio snowfall, and if you don't know what that is, I'll show you guys in a moment, but 10-to-1 ratio snowfall takes any frozen precipitation, that includes freezing rain or sleet, and it considers it to be snowfall that falls at a rate of 10 to 1 inches. So basically, if 1 inch of precipitation, frozen precipitation falls, it thinks it'll be 10 inches of snowfall. So even if that's, an inch of freezing rain or an inch of sleet, which obviously would not end up being 10 inches of frozen precipitation on the ground because it's not fluffy like snow. It doesn't take up that much space like snow would. So very, very deceiving. I highly recommend actually using the Kuchera, or however you want to pronounce it. I don't think anybody really knows how to exactly pronounce it, but that's going to be your best bet. So this is the 10 to 1. And when we take a look at that, it's counting a lot of snowfall in here. And even on this website, it does a good job actually compared to others of kind of getting rid of the not snow stuff. But that's 10 to 1. And then here's your Kuchera. So we see it actually recedes a lot of the amounts in here. So again, I'm just going to keep that circle there actually. Let's see. Keep an eye in there because that's going to be your crucial spot to watch. So look at the 10 to 1. We're seeing a lot more in here. And then when we switch it back to the Kuchera, see how it recedes it back? It's getting rid of the freezing rain and the sleet. It's taking that into consideration here on the Kuchera ratio. So this is really, really good to use in most circumstances compared to 10 to 1. I highly, highly, highly recommend it if it is at all possible to you. Anyway, that's a little side note because I've been seeing people do that in the Weather Freaks group. I just don't want anybody to be disappointed with a huge lack of snowfall compared to what you were expecting, because a lot of models are considering this right here, this pink stuff, to be snowfall that's accumulating when you look at the 10 to 1 snowfall map, and that just is not the case. This is going to be pure freezing rain, and it's actually going to be a little bit of a very serious major situation with the freezing rain. Not good at all. We actually have to switch to our 0Z run, which you can see was a little bit further northward. But that freezing rain really, really plays a role here for a lot of these regions. And we'll take a look at the total freezing rain in a moment. But we see heavy snowfall for multiple states: Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, Maryland here, Pennsylvania. We see all of these states seeing heavy snowfall coming down by this point. And you can see the low pressure system. The interesting thing is this trough is kind of inverted, so it ends up like almost curving inland here. And that's why a lot of these regions just cannot get snowfall at certain points during this storm, or they see mixed precipitation, even up to Boston. You can see here in the New England region, southern New England states, I would say. We still see heavy snowfall here to the north, though, of that low pressure system. Very major situation. And then it eventually finally moves out by Tuesday. So total snowfall, Kuchera here we are going to be using, obviously. We see that a majority of the snowfall takes place very far inland. We kind of knew this, but if you're in the grays, you're looking at a dusting, if anything. Blues are going to be 2 to 6 inches. Purples are going to be 6 to 10. Pinks are going to be 10 to 20 here. And then these pastels here over these regions, this is going to be your 20 to 30 inch amounts or so, maybe even perhaps more. Also, we see the White Mountains here on the European model suggesting 20 inches plus. So we're going to be seeing quite a bit of snowfall. Some spots peaking over 20 to 25 inches of snowfall. So this is definitely going to go down as a major snowstorm regardless. Freezing rain here. Unfortunately, it looks like an inch or more is possible here for South Carolina, Southern Virginia, and then North Carolina here. But I really think a safe bet would be more like a quarter inch to I would say 3/4 of an inch would be a little bit more conservative, which is already just devastating here throughout these regions. So please, 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 just keep in mind that this is going to be terrible. This is going to be worse than any amount of snowfall, really, this freezing rain, if you're not familiar with it. I know this isn't your typical freezing rain region, of the United States. It's not the freezing rain capital of the United States here in the Carolinas. So it's just a little bit more of a rare event that we're seeing take place. So GFS model, let's zoom on through this, and we're going to see it dive down the same way. Really, there's not much of a difference here. Let's go ahead and zoom into the east. So these models are actually on board with each other for the most part. So freezing rain develops. I think we get spared a little bit here in South Carolina, more so than I guess the European model was showing. But as you can see, it's a very similar outlook once we roll that all the way through. So let's take a look at that Kuchera snowfall. And as you can see, it's a little bit less, I would say, for some spots, but a little bit more for others. We can see this a little bit further east, I would say. Again, the pinks are going to be our 10 to 20 inch amounts, and then those pastel blues. We see some of this here for kind of the Finger Lakes regions of New York and some other surrounding regions, and then also the White Mountains. That's your 20 to 30 inch amounts, so those will be around. And also the Smoky Mountains, seeing some 20 inch amounts potentially there on those mountain peaks. Very, very interesting. And then our freezing rain, a little bit less here. We see under an inch, but still. And then, like I said, it's mostly here for North Carolina on this model. So a little bit further north, which would spare some of you South Carolina folks there, which I really hope it spares as many people as possible. We would be seeing half an inch to almost an inch of freezing rain, though, in this darkest pink region, kind of near the Charlotte region, I would say. All right, now I want to continue this model on actually to talk about the upcoming pattern just a little bit, because we do see multiple snowstorms in the upcoming pattern. 20th, we see something happen here in the Northeast, so we're going to be watching that on our GFS model. But also we get some more coastal storms, so this one could potentially be a southern slider. We do see some snowfall in here on this model as of this point. This is 200 hours out, so this could change a bit, but we do see a potential coastal storm. As you can see, we get into a much larger trough, so much colder pattern here as we approach the end of January, according to this model. We get another potential coastal snowstorm here, bringing maybe a potential major snowstorm. So we get multiple shots at more coastal snowstorms, and we keep that trough in the east throughout the end of January. So multiple snowfall threats throughout the end of January. The second half of January could be more active than the first half, and also it could be colder than the first half as well. So we're going to be needing to really watch that very, very closely. Now here's our RGEM model. So we're going to play this one through as well. We see it dive down. I want to see if there's any differences on this high resolution model here. As of this point, not really. We see more freezing rain on this model, I would say, for this region other than the other ones. So let's continue this on. Yeah, just devastating amounts of freezing rain coming down near the low pressure system there. This model actually keeps a lot more widespread with the freezing rain throughout a lot of these regions, I've noticed. Even some mixing up into here. Don't know for sure if that's what's going to happen, but this model is indicating that there will be a little bit more than what the other models were calling for. And that's as far as we can get on the RGEM right now. So let's take a look at that Kuchera snowfall real quick. And this one keeps it way further inland in here. So this model is much further west. That is something to note. There is still some differences with the tracks on some of these models, which leads to a tiny bit of uncertainty still. We see 10 to 20 inch amounts in this region, kind of western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, western Virginia, still the Smoky Mountains here, and then western New York there as well, seeing the most of the snowfall. And really, these areas just really get kind of, less snowfall, mostly mix on this model. Let's take a look at the freezing rain total. And this model says an inch and a half would be possible, mostly for South Carolina. So you could tell they're uncertain with the location of the freezing rain as well, which is an even bigger problem because I think that's an even bigger impact at this point that we're taking a look at. Now, lastly, here's our NAM model. We see it dive down. A lot of freezing rain again, kind of like the RGEM model, so that's not good. Even in through Georgia, we're seeing a lot of this freezing rain on this model. Let's continue this on. And the thing I noted, because I looked at these before I started the video, we see a lot of freezing rain make its way into Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia as well. They're much further north than the other models, and even in through New England here on this model. Although the low pressure system is located offshore of the East Coast on this model, which is interesting because the rest of the models had it located like over New York. So this is a much further east solution with the low pressure system. But with the snowfall, it really translates to something that looks a lot more like what the RGEM is calling for with the bullseye of the snowfall in this region. Even this is even further west with the snowfall, I would say. We're seeing these 10-inch amounts, 10 inches plus in mostly that region, and then maybe some 20-inch amounts there, kind of, I would say a little bit west of the Finger Lakes, and then even through north central Tennessee, which is super interesting as well. You can tell there's still some differences. And then this model says major freezing rain event for the entire mid-Atlantic region here and surrounding regions, which would be absolutely devastating amounts, especially in this region here. If this model was correct, the NAM model tends to overdo certain things, and this might just be one of those examples, but it might not too. So we need to definitely consider this, but still take it with a grain of salt, because this model says a quarter inch to a half an inch of freezing rain for all of those regions, which would be absolutely devastating, like I said. Anyway, we just walked through so much. I am completely overloaded, weather overload here. I'm sure you guys are as well. So for today's confidence tab, we have upgraded actually to a 5 out of 6 because we're getting so close with this one. We are seeing some agreement here on the GFS and the European model. And then the NAM model and the RGEM model actually agree as well. So it's mostly, we have groups of models now that are in agreement, and it's which group is going to be right. So we've upgraded from every single model showing something completely different to now there's actually 2 major opinions, and we're going to need to filter it down to where they all agree, and only time will tell how soon that could happen. So that's why we're at a 5 out of 6. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, do you think this could be the most major snowstorm of the entire winter? And James Marr said, I believe there will be another snowstorm, not quite as major as this, but will bring more snowfall rather than rainfall along the coast. And that's interesting. James Marr mentions that because I noticed on that GFS long-range run that we took a look at, it kind of does away with the southeast ridge, and it shows more potential snowfall along the coast, actually. So I'm sure James Marr is seeing exactly what I'm seeing there. So I thought that was a really good comment there. For today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovin Nagel, Larry LePan, Mandy Birchfield, Patrick Strickland, Dave Scott, and Donna Carnes as well. I'd also like to thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Kudalesa, Capite, Charles Tennant, Bill Dallas, Gary's, and John Khaleesi also. I would also like to thank our channel members, Capite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.